to welcome everyone to this wonderful occasion, a reception to honor and celebrate Dr. Michael Otaigbe. Thank you very, very much for being here today. So we're going to have a lot of folks streaming in and out, and over the next about hour and 45 minutes, we'll have an opportunity to talk about Dr. Otaigbe's wonderful career as school board chairman, and you will learn much, much more about his entire career in education, which I am literally learning more about this guy every single time I talk to him or somebody that he knows. But I'm really excited to look at everything that he has been able to accomplish for the county of Prince William County, and I'm confident that his success is not over. I think he's still going to serve in various capacities. So thank you for being here today. Many of you are missing your Washington Redskins football game. Last I heard at halftime, it was 17-0 Redskins. I was excited coming in here because I'm a big Redskins fan, right? And then Lori reminded me, you haven't got to the second half. Calm down. So thank you, Lori, for bringing me back down to earth. It can be hard to be a Redskins fan. I will tell you, my wife often joked, she started saying this about 2 or 3 years ago. She said she is confident in our marriage because she has seen how faithful I have been to the Redskins through all of the many ups and downs, the many losses, and I have still been with the Redskins. But we're going to open today with a word of prayer. Dr. Otaigbe's pastor, Dr. Carrie Tuning, is going to open us up. She's the associate minister at Mount Zion Baptist Church in Triangle, Virginia. So Dr. Tuning, if you can come on up.
Good afternoon. Let us bow our head in a word of prayer. Oh, Heavenly Father, we just come to you right now, Lord. First of all, we just come thanking you for being God all by yourself. We just want to thank you, Father God, for sending one of your servants by way of an educator, Dr. Michael Otaigbe, Father God, to serve this community as well as internationally. We want to thank you for those that are gathered here in his honor today, Lord. But first of all, Father God, we want to give thanks and honor to you, Lord, the Creator, because you were the one who created him. Thank you, Father God, for this group that has assembled. We just pray that your special will be done in this place, Lord. We thank you for the people that have organized this in his honor, Lord. And we just want to pray, Father God, that in the midst of all of this, that people will be able to see the Jesus not only in him, but in us. All of these things we ask right now in the mighty Master's name of Jesus, we do pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. The organization that is hosting today's event is the Virginia Leadership Institute, and I realize there's a lot of folks who may not know what that is. So we have the organization president, Krista Jones, here to tell us a little bit more about the organization and what they have been doing in the Northern Virginia area. Krista?
Good afternoon, and thank you all for coming to today's reception to recognize Dr. Otaigbe. As DJ said, my name is Krista Jones, and I founded Virginia Leadership Institute back in 2006, specifically with the goal of increasing the number of Black elected officials in Virginia. So we do that through not only trainings, which a lot of candidate programs do, but we also do personal consultations, because we realize that when you're trying to take that big step like running for office, you can't often learn everything in a few hours or one day. So we have volunteers who take the time to work one-on-one with people in particular skills that they need help with. So whether it's fundraising, media relations, etc. And since 2006, we have trained over 300 people. We have had 30 actually run for office and 6 have won. So we have an outstanding record. We also like to honor those who are doing well in their community. And that's really the base of what we do. We honor 10 local leaders every year under 40 who are doing great work in the political and civic engagement arena. And there are actually some honorees here today. And then we also do receptions like this. And the Prince William County chapter has been excellent about honoring those who have really paved the way in our community. So that's just a little bit about VOI. If you want to find out more information, our website is www.virginialee.org. And I'll turn it back over to DJ.
And now we're going to have a couple of folks share brief remarks about Dr. Otaigbe and what they have meant in their life. We're going to have 4 elected leaders, and we're going to have 4 former students. I will give this disclaimer as well. We know we have a lot of candidates here and whatnot. Not everyone will be able to speak, but we will have a few folks speak, and then at about 4 o'clock we will begin our refreshments. The first individual who's going to be sharing is a former student at Strayer University. So Nancy Jimenez, if you can make your way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. It was an honor to be asked to speak today on Dr. O and I's story. Before I begin, you should all know that I'm terrified of public speaking. I actually have a story with Dr. O about that. Ever since I have known him, he has pushed me to come out of my shell. For example, I remember times when he would tell me to come speak to new student orientation and speak to the new students. But when orientation came, I was nowhere to be found. Later I would hear, "Miss Nancy, where have you been?" Before I share my story, I know everyone has their own story with Dr. O. We all know that he is quite involved in the community and in the school board. It was always the same story, that he was pushing education and motivating everyone to do better. This is my story. Let me begin. When I first met Dr. O, when I was 12 years old, like any other 12-year-old girl, you don't have a car and you still want to go to the mall and go places. My sister worked for Dr. O as his assistant at Strayer University, and she worked on Saturdays. So I would ask Diana if she would take me to the mall, and of course she said she would drive me to the mall or wherever I needed to go if I could help her at work. So my Saturdays were spent at her office folding envelopes. Dr. O would come in on Saturdays and say, "Wow, you're such a hard worker." And that's how I met Dr. O. Needless did he know, I just wanted to go to the mall. A few years later, Diana let me know that Dr. O was running for school board. I was in 9th grade, 14 years old, at Potomac High School. Dr. O calls me and says, "I need your help. I'm running for school board." And of course, I helped out. Dr. O was close to my family, and of course, I was happy to help. I remember it was cold, and I was handing out flyers, knocking on doors, saying, "Vote for Dr. O." I was probably his youngest fan. I remember his second election. I was a little older this time, 18, 19 years old, and working at Strayer University as his assistant, following the footsteps of my sister. Here we are again, knocking on doors, passing out flyers, supporting Dr. O as a family. My family supported Dr. O. He knew everything that he has done for my guidance in family. He was aware that the guidance he shared with my sister and I. My father is now his biggest fan, and we had bumper stickers on the car that he was passing out flyers and supporting Dr. O. Sadly, my father is not able to be here today. He passed away October of last year. But I know that he is here today in spirit. Not only did we share a close connection during his election time, Dr. O has been like a second father to me. My father was very thankful for that. I remember while I was working for Dr. O, he was always trying to motivate us, inspire us to do better in life. One of the topics that he always brought up is that I needed to buy a house. I was 23 years old. I'm thinking, how am I supposed to buy a house? This is impossible. I'm not even married yet. Dr. O still kept telling me that this is a time, the market is good, stop shopping and buy a house. During my lunch breaks, like any 23-year-old girl, I would go to the mall with my coworkers, and we would bring back bags and talk about the nice things that we bought. Dr. O would see all those bags and say, "Miss Nancy, what did you do with all those bags? You're supposed to be saving money to buy a house." It was like having my dad at work. At 24 years old, I bought my first house, and I'm very thankful for everything that Dr. O has done. Another great memory that I have with us is Dr. O's education. He's always guided me through education. He's always been talking about education. With that guidance and motivation, Dr. O, I was able to earn my associate's degree, my bachelor's degree, and then my master's. I'm very thankful because of it. If it weren't for Dr. O, I probably would have moved a lot slower on all of that. I'm still, in my career, I still think about Dr. O very much. I still work at Strayer University. I'm no longer an academic assistant. I am now the Associate Director of Military Services. The lessons that Dr. O has taught me, I think about every day. His leadership, his guidance, in making difficult decisions, even when it comes to public speaking. I will always keep these forever. Thank you, Dr. O, for allowing me to share my story. And most importantly, thank you, Dr. O. Thank you for being there, and thank you for being a second father to me. I still have a lot to learn, and I know that our journey will continue. Thank you all.
Sounds like a good public speaker to me. Goodness gracious. Wow. Doc, you do me a favor and turn the volume down just a little bit. Our next speaker is going to be the chairman of the school board, Milt Johns, who, by the way, is also not seeking re-election, so his time is coming to an end as well. But it's my pleasure to have Milt Johns up here to share a few words.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. And first of all, I want to thank Virginia Leadership Institute, DJ, and Don for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to share just a few words and to be part of this event. Now, they said I couldn't have the whole hour to speak, so I'm going to focus on three vignettes about my relationship with Dr. Michael Otaigbe of the Coles District, as we say on the dais. And the first little vignette is what I call It's a Small World. Now, as many of you know, Dr. O hails from Nigeria, and it's an amazing, compelling story, his life story of what he accomplished and all that he achieved through perseverance. But one night we were speaking, this was probably a couple of years after we had gotten to know each other, and I said, you know, Michael, it's funny you're from Nigeria. I said, my college roommate, my freshman year at George Washington University, was from Nigeria. He said, what's his name? I was like, this is a gag, right? He's from Nigeria. Yeah, what's his name? So, okay, I'll play along. His name is Patrick Ijuede. Oh, he's an Ijuede. Yes, he's from my village in Nigeria. It's true. The Isa people, the Isa region, Patrick Ijuede, was from that same ethnic group and the same village. So some 20-some years apart, that I had met two people from the same small village in Nigeria. I had to move to Washington, D.C. to do it. So Dr. O has always brought sort of that international point of view and really helping us on the board understand that there's more than just one way to see a problem and to think about problems. And so that's a great story. The second little vignette I want to talk about is Dr. Otaigbe's dedication and his commitment to the school board. As many of you know, a few years back, we almost lost Michael, and it wasn't so much that we had misplaced him, but in fact, Michael was involved in what later would turn out to be a very serious car accident, a minor accident with serious implications. And so he had come to the school board meeting and he was late. And he said, "Oh, I'm very sorry, I was just in a car accident." I said, "Well, Michael, why aren't you coming to a school board meeting?" "Oh, I'm fine, I just bumped my head a little bit. Like, the car's totaled, but let's go on." Okay. We didn't think anything about it. And so it was about a week later. It was, in fact, it was, I think we had a disciplinary hearing. It was a Wednesday night, about a week after this incident. And it was that morning, and I'm in Starbucks or something, and my phone rings, and it's Michael. And he said, "Milt, I just need to let you know I'm not going to be at the meeting tonight." He said, "I'm at the hospital." I said, "Oh no, are you okay?" And he said, "I think so. They're wheeling me into surgery right now." And then the phone hung up. I have to say that's the only call like that I've ever gotten. 8 years on the board, but it just illustrates his dedication to the community and to our board. Is that you would think the last thing you're thinking about is the disciplinary hearing that's going to go on that night, but here he is being wheeled in for what was a pretty major procedure at the time, and he was calling me to let me know that he wasn't going to be able to be there. My third little vignette I've entitled "Partners in Crime." And I mean that only in a good way, in case anyone from local media is present. And Michael and I were speaking a little bit on the way in. I guess I met Michael, it would have been about 13 years ago, when we were both first kind of emerging as potential candidates for the school board. And I met this guy at a Republican meeting or some meeting of the type, and he was like Energizer Bunny, man. "I'm running for school board, and I'm gonna do great things, and we're gonna run." And I was like, "Man, it's 9 o'clock at night. I'm tired." But he was on. Imagine the Energizer Bunny drinking coffee all day. That was kind of what it was like. But what a pleasure it was that we were the class of 2003, what I like to refer to as the class of 2003. There were quite a few of us who came into county government at that time. Mr. Noe, who's here, was elected 2003, and Michael and I, and so we looked after each other's signs, and we kept each other tabbed on, kept tabs on each other, who was walking in which neighborhood, and so forth. So we've been partners in crime for a long time. We would then a few years later have a slight twist in our relationship when he became my boss and hired me to teach at Strayer University, teaching business law. I had taught at the law school, Mason, for a while and enjoyed that, and he offered me a spot with the business law program. And did that for quite a few years, took a little bit of a break, and now I'm teaching again at Nova, where, of course, Michael is teaching at Nova. And in fact, at the Manassas campus now, our two classrooms are right across the hall from each other, just not at the same time. And so the final note, just in tribute to Michael, and you're going to hear from other folks, and they'll talk about different things. And one of the favorite, early on, when I wasn't chairman, and I didn't have to be on top of everything going on in the meeting. If we were in a really stressful part of the meeting, sometimes I'd write a little note, and I'd pass it down to Dr. Otaigbe. He'd open it up, and I'd look at him. He'd always smile, and it would usually say something like, "You are a handsome man." And I knew I could get a smile or a laugh out of him. And for many years, we have explained to people that, in fact, no, we're not twin brothers. The resemblance is kind of uncanny in a spooky way. But Michael has been my brother, and he will always be my brother. And I've served shoulder to shoulder with him, and I look forward to exploring what the next chapter of our lives entail, serving our community. But it's a privilege to know and to serve with you, and thank you for what you've done for our community.
And next, we're going to hear from another student, Corinne Brown, who is also a former student at Strayer University.
Hello. I don't know whose bright idea it was to just give us 5 minutes. I'm gonna do my best. Learning expands great souls. He who learns teaches. Wealth, if you use it, comes to an end. Learning, if you use it, increases. You learn how to cut down trees by cutting them down. The wise create proverbs for fools to learn, not to repeat. By the time the fool has learned the game, the players have all dispersed. Instruction in youth is like engraving in stone. What you help a child to love can be more important than what you help him to learn. When you follow in the path of your father, you learn to walk like him. Let's think about Anthony on that one. I thought it apropos to start off with a few African proverbs. Nambian, Ashanti, Swahili, Luganda, because that's what I think about when I think about Dr. O. What is a proverb? A short popular saying, usually of unknown and ancient origin, that expresses effectively some commonplace truth or useful thought. A wise saying or precept, a didactic sentence, a person or thing that is commonly regarded as an embodiment or representation of some quality. And here's my favorite. A profound saying, maxim or oracle utterance requiring interpretation. Dr. O is a proverb to me. A profound oracle utterance. The joy and passion that he has for education is an infectious bug, as well as his laughter. I caught the bug back in 2002 when I first met Dr. Otaigbe as my politics instructor and dean at Strayer University. He divided the room into like 2 parts, and I had to be a country that I wasn't necessarily in alignment with their political views. So America was over here, and I was whatever that country was. But the way that he managed and guided those conversations, by the time I left, I was a passionate embodiment of what my country was about. I stood for my values and my beliefs about a country that when I walked into the room, I was like judgmental about. And so those are the characteristics that Dr. Otaigbe helped us learn outside of just being educational. I like to call that environment the class family, so it's interesting that Nancy brought up being a family, because it feels that way. When I walked in and saw everybody, it was like, my family's here. Look at all these people, all big and grown up. It was like being at a reunion. In one of my classes, my sociology classes, the family was so rich that one of the students in the class leaned over in the middle of our discussion, I don't remember the topic, and she was touched. And she shared with me, didn't know her before this class, that she self-mutilated. And I saw in her that something changed in that class. Like she was able to, one, let it go and feel free to share that with her family. And then also I saw a glimmer of hope come through for her that she could do something different. For Dr. O, education is not something that he just talks about. He fully exemplifies through modeling, implementation, and participation. From his and his family's academic accomplishments, I'm always astounded and use his children as examples for all, but mostly finishing their bachelor's degrees before they could even drink. Master's degrees, I'm sorry, I'm behind. They finished master's degrees before, most of them before they were 21. It's just astounding to me. I was just talking to Anthony in the hallway about, I said, you remember, he doesn't remember me, but I remember him for 12 years. And I said, you remember your dad used to bribe you with French fries if he would read? He would tell me that for my own kids. He was like, don't matter what it looks like. If you don't go to work without encouragement or inspiration, so it's not a bad thing to offer them fries or cookies or whatever you got to do to make it happen. All right, I only got 5 minutes, so let me wrap it up. One of the most important proverbs, one of my favorite for me, is really huge, and this one is from Dr. Otaigbe himself. One day in class, he writes down, or in the hallway in the Woodbridge campus, he writes down on a little yellow sticky. Okay, I brought my tissue up here, let me get it together. Right, it's not on the label though, Sticky. You are a lioness. This was written to me years ago, and about 11 years ago. And when I asked what it meant, I was told, you already know. You just need to remember. Well, through the years, I've Googled it. I've asked friends. I've stuck the sticky on the wall and just been like, I still don't get it. So nothing came to me. When he handed it to me, he had this look in his face like he already knew the answer. He was just anxiously excited about me finding it out. So this is my gift to you today. This is what this finally means after all these years. Whew. I am a leader, a hunter, a gatherer. I am a mother, a sister, and a friend. I am big and divine. I'm a servant and a teacher. I'm a nurturer and a healer. The pride, also known as the world, needs me to be a lioness as I was born as, to stand in my powerful role on this planet. I'm in ownership and responsible for my management and my use of my gifts to the community. It benefits no one for me to hide outside of the pride and play small. The pride would starve. Thank you, Dr. O, for that valuable lesson. Thank you for teaching us all how to live and learn and love better. And thank you for not keeping all of your magic to yourself and for teaching me and thousands of others to do the same.
That's beautiful. The next speaker who's going to share remarks is someone who is not a stranger to Virginia Leadership Institute. In fact, I believe it was 2 years that we had a forum on academic policy with the 9 historically black fraternities and sororities. And Lily Jesse was one of those forum participants. And she's probably somebody who's on the school board who has as long of a bio as Dr. Otaigbe, since I know we all have to go to work tomorrow. I'm not going to do her full bio, but I want to invite Ms. Jessie to come up to share a few remarks. Thank you.
Dr. O. When I think of Dr. O, I think of the following. Brilliant man, brilliant educational leader, an orator. In Africa, there is a keeper of the history, the griot. And Dr. O is just a great orator, a recent author. And then last I have put school board member. But as a school board member, he has been my mentor. Dr. O is like a cheerleader. I don't know if you've been called a cheerleader, but you are. Yet, on a serious note, he is a champion for equity. He will stand up for what he believes in. When other members of the board decide we're going to vote along this line, Dr. O will say, no. I'm not voting for that. And he doesn't. He has the ability to, I guess, cut like a butter knife, because you don't really know you've been injured until it's over. And Mr. Trenum is not here, but I think he just picks on Mr. Trenum. Poor Mr. Trenum, he sits there and Dr. O says, oh, no, we're not voting. And he said, you said you wanted to be a conservative, and now you get what you want. This is what you wanted, this is what you got. And we all laugh. I mean, this man has just said, no, I'm not voting with you. But we're all laughing. He is an advocate for rigor and acceleration. I'm on the governor's SOL Innovation Committee, and we're just talking about better use of seat time at the high school level, where there are kids in high school, like Dr. O's children, who are ready to go to college and do not need to sit for that entire year. And so, but Dr. O had thought of that beforehand, and that's why his children all have master's degree. He's an advocate for dual enrollment. In my conversations with him when I came to the board, my background was K-5. Dr. O and I met. I came up to Strayer to chat with him about a board issue that I thought they maybe shouldn't vote for. And he listened very carefully. But when I started a kindergarten to college program for Vaughn, where these kids that people think don't care, their families don't care about learning, get up for 5 years at 4 o'clock in the morning and go to Virginia Tech, because all of my 5th graders went to Virginia Tech. And we had this kindergarten to college program, and Dr. O welcomed my kids to his college, and was just so excited. And it really made those kids feel like they really had put their feet on college ground. And that's what we have to do for certain students. We have to plant the seed of college. We're looking now at, instead of K-12, we're beginning to think K-16, where we're looking at what happens after college. And then finally, I just want to talk a little bit about background, because he and I have very similar backgrounds. My husband and I have this thing where we both came from sheer poverty. And I would say, well, he would say, I didn't have this, and I would say, I didn't have this, and I would say, well, I didn't have this, and he said, well, I didn't. So one day he said, I give up, you were the poorest. So Dr. O, I was telling him about my background coming from South Carolina without anybody in my family who read, not having access to books because I lived in the segregated South. And Dr. O told me his story about being the only one in his family and what he went through coming out of Africa. And I guess there's no analogy where I give up, you were the poorest. But I do give up because you overcame a lot more obstacles than I did. And I want to thank you, and you have no idea what it meant to me when I came on that school board, because I was not selected to be on the school board. I unseated a person that was on the school board. And it was very difficult for me because coming into that board, and you were one of the first people to sit with me and chat with me. And he always gives me advice. Don't do this and don't do that. Now, if you believe in this, you vote for this. And the other thing that he does, which he did today, and I thought, this is so typical of Dr. O. And so he'll say, the Honorable Lily Jessie. You're a cheerleader. You're just a wonderful person with a big heart. And it is an honor, really, to know you and to know your family. And I got to that car. His wife wanted a car. And we were on this trip, and I said, you need to get her a new car. And he said he bought you, did he buy you the car? Yeah, he did.
I think Ms. Jessie also wins Best Impersonation of Dr. O. Yeah, a couple of good ones in there. It's hard to imagine that people here may not know who Lily Jessie is, but I didn't say that she's on the school board representing the Occoquan district and a former principal right here in the county at Vaughn Elementary. But just in case there may be somebody here who doesn't know Ms. Jessie, seems like that she knows so many people. Next up is going to be another student, actually a former student at the Governor's School, which for those who don't know is a collaboration of Prince William County, Manassas Park, that focuses on STEM education. And there are so many great success stories from the Governor's School. And next will be Abbas Idris. So come on up.
Good evening, everyone. Like I was introduced, my name is Abbas Idris. I went to Osborne Park High School and was in the Governor's School program. So we gather here today to celebrate the accomplishments of a wonderful man, a great mentor, a good father, and a leader in our community, as you all have heard, Dr. Michael I. Otaigbe. I happen to be myself, like was introduced, a product of the Prince William County public school system, which Dr. Otaigbe so graciously helped to develop for the last 12 years. I'm a former member and current alumni of the Governor's School for Science and Technology at Innovation Park, and I'm currently a bioengineering major at George Mason University. I graduated from the Governor's School in 2013, and I was a part of the second graduating class since the program's establishment. As many of you know, Dr. Otaigbe was a contributing member to the contrivance of the Governor's School program. Dr. Otaigbe had noticed the disproportionate amount of high school students who were capable of and had the grades to partake in advanced science and technology research opportunities, but were inactive, further minimizing their potential to do greater things and look very competitive for college admissions. Dr. Otaigbe and the board of the Governor's School program took a leap of faith and pushed for an institution like the Governor's School, which would pull all of these gifted children together from all over Prince William County and expose them to the possibilities of science and technology outside the borders of a traditional high school setting. This program was ratified by every school in the county, and just as the Governor's School Committee had taken a leap of faith in the establishment of this program, I too took a leap of faith to join this new program, while others were afraid to be a part of such a difficult program during their most difficult year of high school. But even after the trials and tribulations at the Governor's School, I'm so grateful to Dr. Otaigbe and to the members of the Governor's School Board for such a visionary establishment. The first day of the Governor's School program, we were gathered to discuss the mandatory research project we would be undertaking for that year. I was baffled and I did not know exactly what it was that I wanted to accomplish in the vast world of science. So I listened to various opinions and options available to me that day, and by the end of the day, I still didn't know what I wanted to do, quite frankly. But thanks to the great diversity of experiences pooled in this one location, I was able to meet people who saw that I had a programming ability in computer science and suggested that I pick up a project in bioinformatics because of my affinity for biology as well. The Governor's School's growing reputation and affiliation with my current university was the wind under my sails, which helped me quickly find a mentor at George Mason University. I took on a project to create software to analyze the genomes of microbial species and the distal gut microbiomes of various patients. And by the middle of my senior year of high school, I had one notch under my belt. Not many students I know could say that they wrote relevant software while they were in high school. But the story continues. Now, fast forward to after high school graduation, my first year of college. I was so desperate to begin my undergraduate research experience, and one reason I had chosen George Mason was because I had a strong belief in the depth of the Governor's School's connections there. As it turns out, those connections ran deeper than I even imagined, right? So during my attendance of the final Honors College Research Symposium, the speaker who I had impressed closed her presentation with a picture of my friends from the Governor's School. After the talk, I quickly jumped on stage waving, ooh, 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 like, I know those people, I went to the Governor's School. And this was the beginning of many wonderful experiences to come. That same year, I received a research grant from my university. The following year, I fixed medical equipment in Antigua, Guatemala, and developed medical equipment for the use in 2 different hospitals there. My accomplishments were recognized this past summer, and I was blessed with 2 wonderful internships. One at the Lab of George Church at Harvard Medical School, one of the top 3 genetics labs in the world, and the other at Harvard University's Center for Nanoscale Systems in Science Lake. So as you all can see, Dr. Otaigbe's vision, the Governor's School Innovation Park, had developed in me a love for genomics. And I had fallen in love with single molecule DNA sequencing, which is something you probably all don't know. So again, few people in science even know what that is. You see, as it turns out, this research topic, which I fell in love with during the Governor's School, was invented by the world-renowned scientist whose lab I worked in last summer. I wasn't even 100%, I didn't know this until I'd gotten there, because I was interested in a different sect of it. And it was the exact topic of my summer research project. And to be absolutely honest, no researcher would have taken me seriously when I was 17 if not for the efforts of that man, Dr. Otaigbe, and the rest of the school board, the rest of the board for the Governor's School Innovation Park. Dr. Otaigbe is an extremely passionate man about the youth of this county. Dr. Otaigbe looked at Fairfax County and asked the question of, why should we let the potential in this county go to a school like Thomas Jefferson High School when we can build something like that right here in our county? There are many stories like mine which few people can directly link to Dr. Otaigbe. Thank you, Dr. Michael Otaigbe, for being an inspiration for people like me to go out and mentor others. I hope that someday I can make you just as proud as everyone else sitting here today. Thanks.
I don't know about you, but I didn't understand half of the academic words he was saying. Good Lord, I heard biology. I got that.
Summer school wasn't around.
Yeah, right. Okay. I'm gonna just Google some of them words later. Dr. Otaigbe is the school board member for Coles, which is where I live. So this is a great privilege for me to be a part of this, but my supervisor of Coles Magisterial District is Marty Noe, and that's gonna be the next person that shares a few words about Dr. Otaigbe, and I believe somebody else said before, Milt, they came in during the same time, 2003, I believe it was, correct? Yeah? All right, so thank you, Marty.
So, I gotta say, I got like all these different opening statements in my head, so I'm just gonna say them all, and then I'll run out of time. I want to say, first of all, I want to thank Ms. Jessie and Bill Johns for telling some stories that I actually wanted to tell. So I actually had more than 5 minutes worth of material, so you can kind of shorten it down a little bit, and just like I want to tell some stuff. But I want to say, it's actually, as I sit here and think about this, from my perspective, and I look at my good friend Michael, I think back to 12 years ago when myself and Michael, Bill Johns, Grant Latin, Danita Ramirez, Corey Stewart, Wally Covington, and John Stirrup were all elected for the first time. 4 new school board members, 4 new board of supervisor members. And I'll tell you, there were people in this community who were terrified. It was a big change. I mean, everyone knew like this means something. 12 years later, I'm not so much sure what it means. But I want to say that as I sit here and look at Michael and Milt. Let me say this, and I had a chance to say this a couple days ago at the Kilby Elementary School groundbreaking, where they were kind enough to let me speak, even though it's not in my district, because it's the elementary school I went to. And I'm going to say it again today, I'm going to say it again next week at the groundbreaking of the Ferlazzo School, elementary school site. The working relationship I've had with Michael Otaigbe and Milt Johns have been 2 of absolutely the best professional relationships I've had in any aspect of my life ever. And I want to thank both of you for everything you've done. And bluntly, as I think about the fact that Danita Ramirez and Grant Latin and John Stirrup and Wally Covington, and now the 2 of you are moving on, the notion that Corey Stewart's the only guy left that I have that's going to be around with me possibly next year. It's a little scary, actually, because now suddenly I'm the old guy. And when new people come in, it's going to be me who's a little scared by all this change that's happening. But what I want to share is, I want to talk a little bit about Michael, because we have such a great working relationship, and a compliment that was once paid to us, and it was actually at a meeting of both boards, and it was a great compliment to us. I think it offended everyone else in the room. A citizen came up from the Coles District, and I honestly can't remember who it was, and said that there was no pair of supervisor and school board member who, from the same district, who had as close a working relationship as Michael and I did. This was probably about 6 or 7 years ago. It was right after we got reelected the first time. And, again, there's people who didn't love hearing that, but it was true. We have been partners for 12 years. And when I said that it's sort of surprising that we're here today, 12 years after Michael's first election, honoring him. If you'd asked me 13 years ago when I first met Michael, I never would have thought he'd be on the school board for 12 years. Because, first of all, Michael made it very clear from the beginning that he was not a politician. He was an educator who saw an opportunity to make change. And a lot of the time that we spent together in the early days was figuring out how to distill Michael's big ideas into 2-sentence bullet points that you could put on a campaign flyer, or like 30-second comments that he could make at someone's door to communicate these big ideas in some small. Because when I would tell him, well, tell me, Michael, tell me what you think about this, he would go into it, and you gave such great examples. He would start giving me African parables. I was like, you don't have time for African parables. No one's and that instinct to be an educator first has never failed. And I think back to our election 4 years ago, when it was about 3 weeks before the election, and things were really heating up, and we both had opponents. We were both feeling pretty good about winning, but you have to work until the final minute. And Michael said, "I've got all these campaign signs. Can you help me?" He calls me up, and I'm not going to do the voice yet. I'm going to do the voice in a minute, okay? Because Mrs. Jesse, Mr. John's going to he calls me and says, "Can you put out do you have volunteers that can put out campaign signs? I have them all ready to go, but I don't have anyone to put them out." Okay, and I expected, and he said, "I'll bring you this wooden stakes too," so, which I had plenty of wooden stakes, but I thought he was going to show up with a bundle of wooden stakes and a big stack of signs. And what he had done is he had actually attached the signs to the stakes already. And those of you who are candidates or have never been volunteers, that's not how you do it. You have to put the stake in the ground first and then staple it, because if you press it doing the move, right? If you put the sign on first and hammer it in, it falls off. And he says, and I said, Mike, and he shows up wherever we were meeting, some parking lot someplace. He's got this big stack. So I said, "Oh, Michael, you're not supposed to put them on first." And he says, "No, I remember you told me 4 years ago not to put them on first. So this year I put them on better," and he put them on with like these roofing nails to make sure they didn't come off. And they did not come off. The only problem was the day after the election, like 3 weeks later, it's the day after the election, and myself and a bunch of volunteers were out cleaning up the signs. And I have these volunteers calling me up and saying, "What did Michael Otaigbe do? I've got 3 cuts in my hand already trying to pull these signs out with these roofing nails." But if you think about Michael's story, we've heard pieces of it. He grew up in a village in Nigeria. Nothing about the village in Nigeria tells me 12 years on the Prince William County School Board. Came to this country, worked as a roofer, I believe. Worked as a roofer to pay for his education. Working as a roofer to pay for your education doesn't intuitively translate to 12 years on the school board. Decided to run and said, "I'm not a politician, I'm an educator. I just want to do what's right for kids and share my vision." That does not translate intuitively to 12 years on the school board. And yes, signs that will cut your hand when you put it in the ground does not necessarily translate to 12 years on the school board. But anyone who meets him falls in love with Michael. I actually had this phenomenon I was thinking about someone else the other day, and realized it's no more true for Michael. We all have people that we know that we refer to as like one of your best friends, right? And then you meet someone else and they say, "Oh, do you know Bill? You know John?" And you go, "Oh, yeah, I know John. John's one of my best friends." And you're like, "Oh, John's one of my best friends too." And now you think you got some connection with that person. Then you meet like a third and a fourth and a fifth and a sixth person. They all say that John is your best friend. And you start to wonder, I think actually I'm not as good of friends with John as I thought I was. I think everyone did. But that is the sign of somebody. That is the sign of a leader. That is someone with a magnetic personality. That is someone who brings people together. Everybody I meet and then name Michael Otaigbe comes up in conversation immediately tells me a story about how much they love Michael Otaigbe, how he's one of their best friends, how he is a mentor to them, how he changed their life, in some cases how he saved their life, often in ways that he doesn't even recognize. Those stories are too countless, and that to me is the definition of a truly great man. And the other lesson that I learned from Michael is this, and Miss Jessie talked about this, and when you started talking about it, I was going to say it, but I think it needs to be said, just so I can do the impersonation. One of the things that makes Michael a real leader, and I hope I've learned this from him, because I try to be this way. Michael is very good at acknowledging it's time to make a decision. It's time to stop talking about what the Democrats want, or what the Republicans want, or what the teachers union wants, or what the parents want, or what it's time to stop talking about that. It's time to push a green button or a red button and make a decision about what we're going to do. And so you decide what is the right thing to do, and you push the corresponding button. And he has been that fifth vote on a number of very difficult decisions, some of which in conjunction with the Board of Supervisors, some of which in direct opposition to the Board of Supervisors. Sometimes he calls me beforehand and says, "Marty, I need to let you know, I'm going to vote yes tonight." And sometimes he's in the audience and another board member, and since he's not here, I'll pick on John Sturrow. Because I'll never forget, this is a really big night. This is the first time I ever saw this. The night that the school board kind of laid down the law and told the Board of Supervisors, we are going to have universal all-day kindergarten. It seems like such a simple thing. It's standard now, right? But it was controversial at the time. That, it's so expensive, we can't afford it. And I wasn't sure how to vote, whether to vote for the funding on it. And then John Sturrow asked a question. He hated the idea. So he asked, can some school board member come down here and answer a question about this terrible idea for me? And Michael just jumps out of his seat and runs down and goes, "Oh, Mr. Sturrow, oh, the children love the all-day kindergarten." And so here's the catch. If you ever play poker with Michael Otaigbe, the minute you hear that, Willie Mays would punch his glove and you knew he had the catch, when you hear Michael Otaigbe go, "Oh," that means he's sure. He knows. There's no question left. It's now just time to push the red button or the green button. And to me, that is the definition of a leader. And I look at the half a dozen or maybe more would-be politicians in the room, people who are running for office for the first time this year. Some of you may win, some of you may not. But at the end of your political career, my advice to each of you is if you are half the leader that Michael Otaigbe has been, you will have had an extraordinary career. Thank you.
Thank you. Your impersonation is pretty good. I think Miss Jessie still has you. When a lot of people ask about Dr. Otaigbe, especially in our school system, and we have some teachers here today, we have some administrators here, one of the first things they talk about is his storytelling. He tells stories and a lot of illustrations, no matter where he is, but he actually goes into many of our schools all around the county telling stories, whether it be in a library or in a classroom or something like that. This is what he's known for. And I'm impressed with the fact that he did it a lot from the beginning of his career, and he's done it a lot over the last few years. What Dr. Otaigbe is when he was elected is the same principled man who's committed to the children today. And our next speaker is going to be a former student who, as an elementary school student at Rosa Parks Elementary School, was one of those persons whose life was touched when Dr. Otaigbe first was telling stories in her elementary school. She's now a junior at Garfield High School. Please join me in welcoming Kyrie, I'm sorry, I'm going to get your name wrong, Kyrie Bassett.
Good afternoon. My name is Kyrie Bassett. Miss okay, and as you mentioned, I am a junior at Garfield High School. I'm honored to be speaking here today to celebrate Dr. Otaigbe and his wonderful contributions to the education of young people in our community. I've known Dr. Otaigbe for many, many years. Well, considering my age. I've known him for 3/4 of my life, which seems like a very long time. Over the many years I have known him, he has always been a joyful, charismatic, passionate, caring, and influential leader and example for me to follow. Dr. O is a very joyful person. He always greets me with a "Hello, Miss Bassett." I cannot do an impression, I'm sorry. I can't often. Like he did today. And there's always a warm, sincere smile on his face. And I cannot think of a time when he wasn't a joyful and optimistic person. This kind of happiness is an imperative quality to have because happiness is contagious. And as a leader, it is something people want to be around. Dr. Otaigbe is also a very charismatic storyteller. I remember first meeting Dr. Otaigbe when I was a second grader at Rosa Parks Elementary School. It had just opened that year. And he often came and would tell us these wonderful stories. Like I remember one was about a flying turtle. And they would always have these, the fables would always have these true, heartfelt, moral meanings behind them. And listening to him seemed like Dr. Seuss would have read his stories aloud. He was just so alive and into the characters and the story itself. The story room that he would tell these stories to us in was also dedicated to his mother, who I heard was also a fabulous storyteller. Dr. O is without a doubt passionate about education. As a member of the school board, he helped create an annual parent summit where he would help parents understand all of these options that they needed to know were available to their students to get the most out of their education. He helped them to know about the International Baccalaureate program, which I am now enrolled in, Cambridge, and the Advanced Placement programs. I was fortunate enough to sit in and watch him and my father talk to the parents. You should have seen him going through the steps that he believed were the way to success for a student in life. He came across as a passionate and caring leader, and if he can convince an adolescent that these really difficult courses are the way to go, then you know it must be real. Right. Dr. O is also a very caring man. Last winter, he discussed a college sociology course he was teaching at Nova with me. And he invited me to come and visit because he thought that I would enjoy it and get a lot out of the experience. While I was never able to take him up on the offer, his interest in me as a student shows you how much he truly cares about people. He was trying to help me expand my horizons and lead me into a place of success and motivate me to push myself to make the most of my high school career. Dr. Otaigbe is also a very influential person. He influences students through his encouragement to apply themselves in their education. He encouraged me to pursue my interest in the IB program. Sometimes it is really difficult to stay motivated when you feel as though you've hit a wall. But when I run into these moments, I think of the encouragement of people in my life who would tell me not to give up, just as Dr. Otaigbe had always done. He would say, it is worth it, and that I can do it, and to never give up. He showed me how someone can motivate others to achieve success and possibly become a leader themselves someday. I would like to thank Dr. Otaigbe for his joy, passion, charisma, care for, and influence on the students such as me in Prince William County. And I would also like to thank everyone who's in this room today. It just shows how one man can make a difference when he steps up and becomes a leader. Thank you.
I tell you, the students here are great speakers. Don't they present themselves so well? I feel good about the future of our county. As we wind down, we're going to have one more speaker, government, and then after that, the host committee for Virginia Leadership Institute is going to present Dr. Otaigbe with an award. So if some of the host committee members can go ahead and make their way down front. But now we're going to have another school board member who represents our Woodbridge district, Lori Williams. And I think it's, as one of the other African-American school board members on our school board, I see her, I see a lot of the same energy that I see in Dr. Otaigbe. And many of you who know Lori has seen that as well. She's very committed to the students on a very direct way. She has helped a lot of students in a direct way, whether it be school supplies or things like that. So it's my pleasure to bring up here Lori Williams.
Thank you to Virginia Leadership Institute for hosting this wonderful event for Dr. Otaigbe. I'm a little nervous because normally I write all of these, when asked to speak, I write a prepared statement and all these things, but in Dr. O's case, I had this scrolling banner across my brain going happy, so I couldn't get past that word. But to me, Dr. O, that is the thing about you that stands out the most. no matter the difficult time, the joyous time, whatever situation may be going on, I know that I can look to you and there's a smile on your face. And in today's world, that's an amazing ability to have. It's an amazing quality. I probably have had the shortest amount of time spent with you. I've only been on the board these past 2 years, but it has been a very blessed few years. It's been a privilege to know you and to learn more about you as time goes on. For me personally, I can say that honestly, really and truly, you have made such an impact on my life. You've helped ground me as a person, as a professional, and as a parent. And what I mean when I say that is, may sound a little silly, but until you shared a lot of your stories of your parenting and how you mentor young children, I really thought that I was the only crazy person out there bribing children to read with snacks and candy and making them go to different events and all of these things. And I thought, well, man, it's just, my dad had to just come from some foreign outer space planet because he's the only other person I've ever met who did these things. And then along came you, Dr. O, in my life. And I felt so reassured that I was not alone. I think I'm the only 16-year-old who took my whole Sweet 16 party to a college fair, which I still hear about today. Like, I don't even know how you got us there, but... And as DJ can tell you, I'm usually have about 2 or 3 kids in tow, if not a baby, along with it. But it's been an honor because you encourage me to keep doing the work that I do. And for me, it's an honor now because as you leave, I feel privileged to be able to sit on now the governor's school board to continue on your legacy. My love of education, even though I'm not an educator, my love of technology mirrors your own, and you leave such a big footprint to follow, but such a wonderful example. And I just wanted to take this time to mention to you personally, as I've said before, but I will continue to say, it will always be my honor to continue your legacy. And to know that I hope that you will be reassured, provided I'm still on the board after the election. I'm hoping so, considering I don't have an opponent. I would consider it a privilege to continue on your work that you so graciously started, and I hope that I can do just as good a job as you have done. And in the best interest of time, Dr. O, I know that you will never fade from our lives, and I hope that you will continue to share your love and your stories of education, your experiences, and come back on the board and citizen time and share another story about how your dog ate cake or something to keep us going. But again, it has truly been an honor and a privilege, and I hope that I can only continue to do the greatness that you have done. And thank you for being my excuse when I look to my son and say, you know, I know there's some other kids out there whose dads or moms are making them sit down and read, and thank you for your sharing your story about your son who just got a CPA, because again, I could use that and go see. If you put the work in now, you have time later to do the things that you love and to share that with other people, and you're such a shining example of that. So thank you, Dr. O.
I think we set a record. All of our politicians stayed within the allotted time. Maybe Marty. Please join me in giving a warm applause to Dr. Otaigbe. If you could come on up. Virginia Leadership Institute is the organization that put this on, but the host committee who worked on putting this together along with myself is Don Scoggins, Marlo Watson, and Brenda Nalem. There's also another Virginia Leadership Institute member, several here, Ramunda Young, who else I met? Preston Banks, anyone else? So it was a team effort, but I want to thank the fellow host committee members who worked on this. And Brenda is actually going to talk about our presentation.
Hello, I'm Brenda Kelly Nellum, and I'm a member of Virginia Leadership Institute. And as you know, Virginia Leadership Institute, and I guess someone has said this, talk about we need to be at the table. And what we mean by that, we need to be where decisions are made. like on school boards or other boards until we graduate up to the elected boards. And I think that's very important that we do that because we're so underrepresented. And it's with great honor today that we honor Dr. Otaigbe. I go back with Dr. Otaigbe. We used to go to the same church. And he used to have all these storytellings, and I hear everybody laughing about his storytelling, but I attended a graduation this year, and he told a story. He asked the kids to point to their best friend, and everybody turned and was pointing to the person next to them or across there, and he said, no, your best friend is in the back, your parents. And he gave a lesson that day on why your parents are your best friends. So there's a motive to his storytelling, and I thought it was so dynamic. I don't know, I think the kids got the point. I did. So today we would like to present Dr. Otaigbe with a certificate. And the certificate says 2015 Distinguished Public Service Award, the embodiment of a genuine public servant and long time dedicated to the educational excellence. Virginia Leadership Institute is pleased to bestow its Distinguished Public Service Award to Dr. Michael I. Otaigbe. And thank you, Dr. Otaigbe, and I'm so glad I got to present this. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Dr. Otaigbe.
Let's try one more time. Hello, everyone. That's more like it. That's more like it. A big thank you to everyone that made it this evening. I know there are competing needs on your time, and you carved out this time to be here with me, to celebrate with me. I really appreciate it. Virginia Leadership Institute, thank you for what you are doing for the community. Keep on doing it. Keep on encouraging. The Coles residents who voted for me 3 consecutive times. I see many of them here. I want to thank you for your kindness, for trusting me 12 years ago, for seeing the burning desire in me, education. You trusted me to represent you for 3 consecutive times. I really appreciate it. To my lovely wife, I don't want to forget, I get into trouble.
That's right.
Yes, to my lovely wife, Patience. 12 years ago, she was the one pushing me. You know, we have to climb one more hill to knock on doors. We have to protect ourselves from the barking dogs. So she was right beside me all the way. And I will never forget that. And my children are also here. Linda, Otaigbe, please. And my son Anthony. Thank you. their patience with me. I'm crazy about education. Yes, I use the word crazy. I'm crazy about it. I just feel that it's the fastest route to getting yourself out of poverty. Election year, next year, big year for presidential election, you're going to hear a lot about how do we reduce inequality in the United States. And I just want to jump on top of the roof and say, education, education, and start from when they're in the stomach. Start reading Goodnight Moon to them while they're still here. Because if you start very early, you know, I haven't seen a Ph.D. in math who's unemployed. I haven't. Who's poor. I haven't seen a medical doctor that is poor. I haven't seen someone who is crazy about programming, computer programming, that is poor. I haven't seen it. And all it takes is to start from when they are babies and work hard to make sure they are above average in English, above average in math. That's all. That's all. And they will achieve their wildest dream. I have to tell you, it's a collective effort. It wasn't just one person. Chairman Neil John will tell you it takes 5. It takes 5 votes to make a difference. And I'm grateful to them for joining hands when I opened my big mouth one day in the school board meeting about government school. Someone said, "We can't afford that. What are you talking about?" And I was driving home that day. I said, "Whoa, why did I say that? I shouldn't have brought it up. Why did I bring it up?" So that was a powerful lesson for me, that you have to take risks sometimes. When you have a gut feeling, when you feel it, say it aloud. Say it. Bring it up. That's what I did that evening. Because I was upset. We have Thomas Jefferson High School, and a lot of our children will apply, and only about 20 will get in. And I'm saying, what happened to the 200 students who love science? What happened to them? They love it. They need a safe place to be. Why can't we do something? And I brought it up in our board meeting, and I'm so grateful to my fellow school board members who supported the idea. And today's history. And we saw one of the products, Abbas. Thank you, Abbas. You know, you lost all of us when you were talking. I was doing this one. Thank you. We appreciate what you are doing. To spend the summer at Harvard University doing research. You know, that's wonderful. I love that. It takes a whole village, and that's what is taken in our county. It takes the school board members, it takes parents, guardians, students, board of supervisors, the state, the federal government. It takes all of us to make a big difference, to raise wonderful children. And as long as we do that, Prince William will continue to be the shining light as far as education is concerned. When people want to hire the best administrators, the best principals, they come to Prince William. I know one of my principals who attended an international conference. And when they found out that she worked for Prince William, they recruited her. And we lost her. She's in Dubai right now.
She's ready, yeah. Because don't believe everything you read in social media about our school system. We are doing great things. If you look at the surveys, the parent survey, overwhelming percent of students, kids, parents, they love us. They love the school division. They know we are doing great things. So what's the future of Prince William? It's in our hands, all of us. It reminds me of the little boy in Africa who captured a little bird. Because in Africa, we believe that the older you are, the wiser you are. And this little boy didn't buy into that. And he wanted to test the wisdom of age. So he captured this little bird and went to the eldest man in the village and asked him, is he dead or alive? He wanted to trick the old man. If the elderly man says it's alive, the little boy will squeeze the life out of the little bird. And if the old man said, hey, it's dead, he'll say, hey, look at it. Look, it's alive. Is it dead or alive? He's asking. The little boy was surprised that the old man was looking at his eyes. He wasn't looking at his hand. What's going on here? Is it dead or alive? Finally, the old man told the little boy, you're asking me whether it's alive or dead. It's whatever you want it to be. It's in your hands. It's whatever you want it to be. So that's what I'm saying about the future of our great school system. It's whatever we want it to be. The students, the parents, the school board, the board of supervisors. It's whatever we want it to be. When I visit Mr. Marinoi at the board of supervisors, I push them. I tell them, don't touch the school system. It's the golden goose. It's the golden goose that lays the golden egg. Man, I'll still come and visit. During budget times. To remind you not to touch the school system. It's the golden goose. I will continue to lay the golden eggs. What's the future? Once in education, you will always be in education. Although I'm retiring from the school board, I'm not retiring from education. I promised myself that what I have done for my family, you saw some of the examples here today, I want to do more. I'm not done yet. So I've started that. I've published a book called ABCs of Creating an Academic Star, how to bring out the genius in your child. I believe that all children are born geniuses. All children, all. So some children are lucky to come from a home where that genius is nurtured. So I'm challenging everyone. We can do more. We can reach out and help out those families, those children that may not have the opportunity. Because I believe that success has a lot to do with luck, being lucky. And I don't have to go too far to know that I'm a lucky man. All the way in Africa, my house is here, and opposite my house is another family. My dad worked so hard to pay pay tuition for me in high school. You have to pay tuition in high school. And opposite the family, he did not believe in education. And I always ask myself, suppose I came from there. Suppose I came from across the house for me. All the kids don't go to high school, you know? And across the house, my dad believed in it and worked so hard to pay my tuition. That's why I believe that there's an element of luck in every success. And whatever we can do to reach out to that young person, it can make a big difference. I'm working on a young man right now. Very wonderful young man. I meet him in McDonald's every time. And I don't think he's from a college-going family. And I'm trying to talk to him. He has already been promoted to assistant manager. And I'm talking, every time I see him, I talk to him. I buy my coffee and I talk to him. I'm working on him. One day, I'm going to put him in my car and drive to Nova. Thank you very much.
That concludes our program today. We have refreshments out in the lobby, and we encourage you to stay and fellowship and also get pictures with Dr. Otaigbe. I'm sorry.
Yes, one thing
Thank you for the opportunity. I didn't want to commercialize the occasion. I'm doing a book launching event October 3rd. We have a flyer going around. Where are the flyers? If you want to pick up one, we will serve African cuisine. Yes. Come on, come on.
Got to put in a promo, ABCs of creating an academic star. What is that? $19.99 on Amazon. All right, great. Well, thank you very much for coming. And please hang out, stay, fellowship, get your picture with Dr. Otaigbe.